limited resources. My guest today is someone I admire, someone who has championed AI in Africa, spoken on multiple stages, and proud to say, coming from the same parts of Africa as I do, Zimbabwe, Chido Dzinotyiwei, welcome to the webinar today.
Thank you so much, Martin, for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, you probably need no introduction, but it's only fair for the people on the call today that you just give a brief intro to how you and AI become one sentence.
Great. So, hi everyone. My name is Chido. I am the co-founder and CEO of Vambo AI, an AI startup aimed at building African language AI for Africa. And yeah, that's pretty much how I am, aligned with AI at the moment.
Right, Chido. Now, for a lot of people, AI started in 2022 in November, right? ChatGPT was what everyone could actually tangibly use and touch and feel. Could you tell us a little bit more about what Vambo AI does, and just give us some comparisons, draw some parallels with some common AIs that we're familiar with?
Yeah, great. So what Vambo AI does is that our team train models to understand African languages, and then we create various tools that people can use. So some of the tools are like ChatGPT, which is a chatbot. Others are translation tools, and just anything that helps people to localize the experience across the continent and beyond. And it is quite similar to other chatbots like ChatGPT, like Gemini, but obviously focused on the context of Africa.
Great. Now, how does your startup make money, and why do people pay for it?
So we have chosen to go with the B2B model, which means that we make money primarily from other businesses that are looking to localize. And people pay for this because this type of solution hasn't been there in the way that it is now. So any business that was coming into an African country wanting to localize would maybe hire a few translators, maybe need validators to ensure that the translations are accurate, and then do that process, which is long and costly. But now with AI translation, it makes the process more efficient and also makes it easier for them to scale across different regions.
All right. Maybe explain to us the challenge you saw. To my knowledge, by the way, and I could be wrong, I think ChatGPT and Gemini have about 10 African languages. Why is that a limitation? Why do we need Vambo AI?
So, we didn't build Vambo AI to be a challenger or competitor to your open AIs. We actually built it as a solution for ourselves. So what had happened was we had a language learning academy, and we were struggling to keep up with the content that our students needed in order to learn the languages that they were enrolled in. So we built an internal tool that we were using for ourselves to create content faster. And I think it was probably one of our users who was like, oh, this thing that you guys are using, how are you getting so much content like so quickly? And they started giving us the idea of offering it to other organizations that need language capabilities. So I won't say it was like a mistake that we kind of got into this space, but yeah, it was quite serendipitous.
I have to say, most successful startups do start in the most uncanny ways. But I want to discuss a little bit about something we discussed. We had a meeting before. AI is about compute. You can see everyone is buying compute. NVIDIA became the world's most valuable company. Like, that just goes to show you how important that compute power is. Considering we don't have much of it, if any, in Africa, really, how are you managing? Because training models, I imagine, requires, first of all, lots of compute and lots of fun. We all hear about how OpenAI and these guys are burning 300 million to train their models. How are you managing to do it as a small African startup?
Yeah, that is a big challenge. And I think it'll be a big challenge for any African startup that wants to enter the space. So, even before you get to the compute, the type of device that you have to train these models also needs to be quite advanced, and those become quite costly as well. But for us, what we did is, I think also just to put figures, because really I want to make this as practical as possible. I think we probably spent about $4,000 or $5,000 to train our first model. And the first 6 training runs that we did all failed. It wasn't working.
Oh.
So we're literally just burning cash without getting any results for it. And I think those are just some of the upfront costs that you have to find a way to bear. And one of the easiest ways is obviously to try get AWS credits. So build a relationship with AWS or any other cloud provider like Microsoft Azure as well. They've been really great with credits. And start building from there, but have a pipeline and a roadmap to say, okay, once we've got the first version, how are we starting to monetize that? I don't think in AI people have the luxury to not monetize from day one.
Mm, mm. The famous bubble in Silicon Valley. Why talk about revenue? So, okay, cool. I understand that. Now, a lot of people on this call are probably going to be wondering, okay, I've used AI, Chat GPT, etc. What does it actually take to develop these models that people use? What kind of skills are we looking at? Your team, could you give us some practical examples of who you have on your team and what skills they have?
Yeah, most definitely. So we just started, like I said, building an internal tool and then found ourselves getting into AI. So we did not have any formal training in AI. And I think that's the space where a lot of Africans or even a lot of people are finding themselves in. So in terms of our tech team, we've got a full stack developer who then upskilled in terms of machine learning engineering. And similar to how you need a DevOps engineer, you also need an ML ops engineer. So we kind of have someone like that who does that part-time to make sure that our models are updated, that they built according to the right infrastructure that we're hosting them on. And then we also have a few junior developers who, again, are upskilling in various subsets of AI. So we focus a lot on NLP, natural language processing, and that's what we have on our team as well.
That's interesting. Um, and how important has that upskilling been to achieve some of the goals you've achieved today?
Yeah, it's been very important. And I think, we tried to go the course route, which is fantastic, enrolling in courses, but we also needed them to have practical experience. So for each kind of skill that we want one of our developers to gain, we always have to have a small project that they're learning alongside the theory.
Great. Okay. So there's been multiple studies that say that 1 in 3 developers is going to be an entrepreneur. So we strongly believe that's going to be the case in Africa, if not even 1 in 2 in Africa, because I think where the world is going, we do realize that there probably won't be jobs for everyone, and Africa, being the youngest continent, is going to be largely affected by this. In your opinion, but what advice would you give to developers on this call or cloud professionals or whatever it is that they are, who might be thinking about going to the entrepreneurial route? Is it a yes or a no? Is it like, don't even do it, like it was a bad mistake? Or is it like, yeah, actually, there's so much to gain from there? What's your answer?
No, I think there's a lot to gain from entrepreneurship. I would encourage anyone to become an entrepreneur, whether it's a side hustle or it's your main gig. I just encourage developers to partner with someone who has more of business acumen, because what you find is you can get someone who's really good at building something, but it's not the case that if you build it, people will come. You need to go to the people, you need to sell to them, and you need someone who understands the sentiment of the market so that you can make the necessary changes for your product to remain competitive. So if you're a developer, I encourage you to upskill in AI, build a business around it, not just a product, and partner with someone who can be on the ground speaking to customers and selling your product to people.
Great. I know a lot of people are also going to be thinking, it seems like this whole AI thing is out of reach. Could you just tell us, how high is the ceiling? Is this something achievable for, the ordinary us Africans who probably have never imagined that we could build models or anything like that?
Most definitely. It is extremely achievable to build an AI startup. And I mean, kind of think of it like if you have a business, a shop, and you want to include a payment solution. You can either take cash, you can take card payments, you can take mobile money in some places, you can take direct EFTs. With AI, you also have a broad spectrum of solutions that you can include and you can start providing to your customers. So you don't have to start by building a model and pre-training it and all the fancy stuff. You can actually start by taking some APIs or solutions of AI startups that are there, localizing them for your context, your community, your market, and starting to actually sell that to learn more about how that market wants to engage with AI.
You got it. And I agree with you on that. My concern, and maybe just taking you back to the point that you guys also kind of realized, okay, we need AI to kind of speed up our workflows, and then you spun off a whole offering from it. For any developers out there or entrepreneurs who are already kind of going at it, offering a solution in market, how should they be thinking about the role of AI in their business? Is there like a formula to say business plus AI equals success, and how does that look like?
Yeah, not necessarily. So from what I've been seeing, there's two ways that someone can implement AI in their business. So one, you can do it internally, or two, you can choose to offer an external facing solution that includes or is enabled by AI. For
Mhm.
someone who's currently in business, I'd suggest working with the mindset of someone who's pivoting. And when you pivot, it doesn't mean that you're leaving behind something that you'd started. It just means that you're allowing yourself to explore a new opportunity, on its own accord. So I'd suggest that you picture it as though you're pivoting. What new market, what new product do you want to reach and do you want to access? And from then build out the product as if the first one doesn't exist. The thing with AI is it's an enabling technology, right? It's not a technology on its own. So again, a model is not going to just magically make tons of money if it does not have a foundation that it is enabling or making more efficient or making or improving. So you kind of need to think about it in that way. I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense, but it also does beg the question, does every business need AI?
At the moment, no. But if you're looking to still run your business within the next 10 years, you will need AI. I think, remember, internal, external. Internally, if your competitors are using AI and they're becoming faster than you, cheaper than you, better than you are likely going to need to include it. Externally, if your clients, if the users are desiring, if there's a huge demand for AI products and services, you are going to need to provide them. So I don't think there's any running away from AI anymore. I think this is the time to start figuring out where you are going to fit on the spectrum.
Man, I mean, you put it really well there. Clearly, it's inevitable. AI will basically find its way into every product offering and service that we're used to. And it's just a matter of time, I believe. Now, let's talk about, let's go back to the skills, because for me, this is important because the skills enable us to use the technology or the tools that we have. Let's talk about African universities for a minute. Now, I haven't checked, but I'm ready to bet that I could probably count on one or two hands the number of universities in Africa that are offering significant AI degrees or courses, right?
Mm.
What can African universities or educational institutions do better? Like, if you were to be sitting on the board of some African universities umbrella organization, what's the advice you'd give to them to prepare the world's youngest workforce for the future of work?
Yeah, this is an amazing question because I think universities are everything. So I would start off by offering a short course. Remember, when you're introducing something new into a community or society, the major kind of sentiment that leads with that is anxiety. And you don't want to now offer a 4-year degree where you're asking people to invest all that time into something that they haven't seen before. They're not sure where it's going. They're not sure what it means or what opportunities are associated with it. So offering short courses in kind of the major aspects of AI, generative AI, natural language processing, and start getting your students using it, or rather start getting your students to uptake it, get them opportunities, and then get their testimonies to then drive the development of those courses. At the moment, we may not have enough professors that are proficient to teach or educate, Africans on this. And this is where collaborations with other universities can come in really well. So collaborating and offering short courses is probably the best way for African universities to get into this space and to offer education on AI.
Oh, great. So short course route, obviously, get people interested, and then slowly graduate into those longer courses with the help and collaboration with universities that are far more advanced, I imagine.
Precisely, yeah.
You mentioned something interesting. Now, you said anxieties, and I have to raise this because while you and I are optimists in the space of AI, for a lot of people, it just, first of all, it's just a headache thinking about AI. They don't understand where it's going. And a lot of them fear that it might replace them, or, many doomsday scenarios that you can think of.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people in Africa who need a little bit of assurance that this is actually a good thing? And that's if you even believe it is.
I do. I believe it is a good thing, but I think we need to take baby steps. So I think at times we kind of get lost in wanting to build the way that Silicon Valley's building, or wanting to speak in the way that global entrepreneurs are speaking. But we forget that we actually need to speak the language of the people that we are serving, not to kind of be punny or anything. So for us, what we found is when we mention AI, if we say, look, we're Vambo AI, people already, the word AI just causes a lot. So we've even stopped mentioning AI when we speak to clients, or rather a certain section of clients that we've identified have issues with that. The second thing is, I think we need to also be quite gracious in educating the market about AI, what it means, what other opportunities there are for them. Again, all the people who are telling the story are leading with this doomsday, your jobs are going, if you're not going to become a developer, it's over for you. But us who are actually building it and seeing the opportunities and seeing the many ways people can leverage it, we need to kind of raise our voices and show people that and tell them that. So I think there's definitely an education component and responsibility for anyone building solutions for Africans.
Understood, and I'm with you on that. I think you fear what you don't understand or what you don't know, right? So just knowing it and understanding it better definitely alleviates some of those fears.
Yeah.
I want to discuss a little bit now about how important it is to have Africans developing AI solutions for the greater narrative. I mean, some of these models are built in France, the US. I know China has a model. India is building one now. The UAE also in the race. We don't see any general purpose large language models, at least to my knowledge, that are really coming out of Africa. Does that bother you, first of all? Does that worry you that we're not building our own big models like that?
Most definitely it does. And it's extremely concerning because if you look at the way those other models are being built, they are now forming the foundations of other AI solutions. So if we're not building our own, the solutions that are going to come after will also not cater to us and our respective contexts. So it's a big issue.
Another big issue is related to data, and I think there's lawsuits flying left, right, and center with regards to use of data to train these models. Is this a challenge that you're facing, and is that something that a lot of startups in AI are going to face in the future?
Yes, no, data is a challenge, and I think we're all also still trying to figure out exactly how to compensate the communities or the organizations that have data that we'll be using. I don't think we've yet figured out the whole commercialization pipeline of AI solutions, but data is a huge problem, and I think the main problem with data is actually not finding data, but finding good quality data. I think some institutions have not done the necessary investment in getting high quality data. So whatever they've got to give, whether it's open source or you cut an agreement, you can't use all of it or you can't use most of it. And that's a problem that we've been seeing with trying to train our models.
I mean, that's interesting. And so there's this concept I recently read about. I think they call it data colonialism.
Mm.
And a lot of people are talking about how potentially, the players from the West or the East could be coming to Africa to basically scrape all of our data, and then they're going to benefit from it economically. Is this something that we should be concerned about, and we should already be looking to create policies around?
Yeah, this is, I think anything to do with data for the continent or even respective countries, there needs to be a lot more work done to protect our interests in that. I guess there's no problem with allowing other people to use our data, but again, we need to be compensated. We need to also see the return from that. And we also need to see where the data is going to go. So if we give one company a contract to use our data, but then they've got multiple other companies that are relying on their solutions, how much of that do we get to realize as Africans? And the easiest way to resolve things like that, or for us not be manipulated in cases like that, is for us to build our own models, or to increase capacity for us to have our own data and our own solutions being built on the continent, where we can see them, where we can use them, where we can monetize them, and perhaps license then those solutions out. I think it's very similar to the issue that we've had as a continent with our natural resources. And if we don't want to see that happening again, we need to act now.
Right. I totally agree with you on that. My concern as well, and maybe this is actually a good thing at the moment, is that a lot of our data is legacy in Africa, if it's even digital at all, right?
Mm.
So I think we are 2-3 steps back with regards to having those data lakes or data, these large data abundant stores that we can tap into. And our AI is even like at the point where they can even access that data is already a question on its own. In that regard, do you feel like there's a whole journey for us to go to first modernize our data, get our data to that point that it's actually useful for AI? Because you did mention something about useful data, right? What is useful data to you, and do you find that difficult to find in Africa?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first question. I don't think it's a whole journey. I don't think it's something that should take long. We've got high levels of youth unemployment across the continent, and the type of work required to improve the quality of our data can actually be given to these young people to do. So, the reason we've got low quality data is because it's not labeled accurately or appropriately. Again, for us, if you get native speakers to label certain data sets, you've kind of resolved that problem almost overnight. And it's something that doesn't, we've got over 1 billion Africans on the continent, a lot of unemployment. Creating smaller opportunities for people to earn money while improving the quality of data is one way that, again, we can also start getting people on the continent to know that, look, there's this AI thing happening. I contributed in this way. Data is the first step. From data, then we give it to these people who create the solutions. Then they give it back to us, and we test and use the solutions. And we start creating an ecosystem where we normalize how AI is built and used. So I think if we use our young people who are unemployed, if we also use our people who've been in the tech space and understand how to build and curate high quality data, we'll be able to catch up quite soon.
So that already almost sounds like a gateway or an entryway into the AI space for me, right? So do you consider that an easy entry for a lot of young people at scale?
Definitely. I think especially for non-technical young people that have an interest in getting into tech and AI, data labeling, doing transcriptions, translations is really one of the greatest ways to get into it.
And because essentially it helps you to understand how these models work, what kind of data they're looking for, because you're actually annotating them. And all right, so I get that, and I appreciate that. Let's discuss a little bit. So I have just a short segment here. Have you ever noticed that whenever you put into those like DALL-E image models or any of those image generators, and you like type just like something simple in Africa, their first like point to go is like a hut or a jungle or like people on elephants and lions. I tend to get that a lot when I'm trying to create some of my content. Can you explain to us what could be causing that?
Yeah, it's a one-word answer. It's bias. So the people who are building these solutions or building these models obviously build it with a certain worldview, um, and that worldviews may not be informed with what the current and lived experience of Africans and Africa is like. So you start getting people who then, yeah, train models to say, okay, this is what Africa looks like, or, when this is what resembles a lived experience in Africa. And then us who are actually in Africa are like, no, that's not reality. So you need people who represent those different communities to also contribute towards building these models.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Allow me to take a moment to let everyone on the call know that we are taking questions for our guest on the chat. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please put them in the chat. I'll be able to see them here and I will forward them to Chido, who will answer them for you. So this is a good opportunity to get those questions in. It's not every day you get to have an AI expert in front of you, so please take this opportunity. While we wait for the questions to come in, I think we started really well, and I want us to just double down on that point. Okay, I'm on this call. I'm inspired by what you're doing. In fact, I'm moved. I'm registering a business tomorrow. What is the starting point? Like, what should I be thinking? What's top of mind when I'm doing this?
Assuming you're building an AI startup, registering an AI startup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what should be top of mind is one, your resources. So how much do you have within your arsenal, and how soon can you get additional resources? AI is an expensive field to be in, not just to build and get your MVP out, but also to maintain your platform. So the two main costs is obviously training your models or preparing your solution, and then inference, which is when people use your model or when people use your solution, you get charged for that as well. So that should be the first thing on your mind. Second thing on your mind should be, how are you localizing your solution? I think now with the way that AI has been built, you've got a lot of what they call GPAI, which is general purpose AI, solutions like ChatGPT, Gemini, that literally serve a variety of uses. So the best way to then get into it now is, how are you localizing it? Are you taking one of their key features and offering it to the Kenyan market? Are you taking one of their key features and offering it to farmers? Think about how you're localizing it and then start your business from there.
Great. On that note, give me 3 hacks for starting an AI startup with limited resources.
3 hacks is become best friends with the cloud providers and get credits. Credits are number 1. You need that compute. Second is become best friends with developers and make sure that they can build, even if it's just a portion of your solution. And the third one is use APIs. There are APIs for your UI, UX, APIs for language, APIs for pretty much anything. So use that first to prove the use case that you want to build out. And then
Hold on. Give us examples of those APIs. We want to note them down here.
okay. So obviously I'll plug our API, the Vambo AI API, which is multilingual and also has generative AI capabilities. Then you've got your Llama 3. You've got OpenAI's GPT APIs as well. And yeah, I think I would honestly start with those general purpose APIs because they've got multiple functionalities. If you're not yet sure what's going to work for your market, that's the best way to start.
Brilliant. Number 3.
Oh, that was 3.
Oh, was that 3? Sorry,
Yeah.
I was
Compute,
tracking the APIs.
compute, developers, APIs.
Good. All right, great stuff. I also think this is a really good time to let everyone know that Gabea's for the last 9 months or so, we've really been working on trying to make these opportunities available to young Africans across the continent. One of the first talent clouds we built was actually with Microsoft. The Microsoft Talent Cloud, which is available on ms.gabea.com, we were able to strike a deal with O'Reilly. O'Reilly is one of the world's top tech and business learning providers. They have a platform where they constantly have guests from some of the world's most renowned industries and institutions. For example, right now they have a lot of guests discussing generative AI and a lot of other AI fields, cybersecurity and data. They have a lot of online courses, books, virtual classes, exam preps even, and we're even offering free certifications on the Microsoft Talent Cloud for Microsoft-related fields. So this is a really good opportunity for you to get something that could have cost you about $2,500 altogether for as little as just $99 for an entire year of subscription. I highly recommend it to everyone on this call. If you're not already on the Microsoft Talent Cloud, that is a really good one. We also have the Safaricom Talent Cloud, where we partnered with Pluralsight. Pluralsight is also one of those top guys, and they're offering a lot of those courses. These are generally going to be a bridge for you to get into these fields that Chido was mentioning. But I want to let everyone know this is not an overnight success kind of thing. It will take a while for you to build these capabilities. That's why we don't have a monthly subscription, because there's no way that in 1 month you're going to actually have the skills and knowledge to be able to go out and be relevant. That's why all our subscriptions for the Talent Clouds are 1 year. And we've priced them so competitively so that anyone can access them. For women in Ethiopia in particular, right now there's an 80% subsidy paid by JICA to make sure that it's as low as possible for you. So do take that opportunity for the Safaricom Talent Cloud if you're a lady in Ethiopia. The Microsoft Talent Cloud has no boundaries. Wherever you are, it's available to you. And very soon we will be opening up the Microsoft Talent Cloud to employers such as Microsoft customers, partners, ISVs, startups. Anyone looking for Microsoft-related skills will be coming there to hire. So please make sure that you're on the Microsoft Talent Cloud, you've done your training, you've gotten your certifications, because we want to see those badges on your profile ready when the customers are coming to hire and look for opportunities. We're also working on what's called the Microsoft Business School to educate you on how you can become a Microsoft AI startup or an AI partner, and also become an independent software vendor, co-selling with Microsoft, which means you can actually build a startup that leverages AI. And for those of you that don't know, Microsoft has a partnership with OpenAI. So what they have is Azure OpenAI. If you're leveraging that AI specifically, Microsoft and their entire team of salespeople across the globe will help you sell your product online to all of their customers, including S500 customers, some of the biggest players across the industry. It will be in their best interest to make sure that your solution is in front of their customers, because the compute you'll be using is theirs. And again, if you didn't know, Microsoft and G42 have made a $1 billion investment to build an AI data center right here in Kenya. So yeah, there's a lot of progress happening. Chido, how are you feeling? Are you optimistic about the future for Africa and AI?
I'm so excited for the future. I think we're just getting started, and hearing about all these investments that are going into talent, into infrastructure, just make me even more excited to build more AI startups.
No, that's awesome. I'm gonna call out again. Any questions? I'm not seeing any questions on my sheet here. Come on, guys. Please feel free to post your questions. All right, Mabakwena Mokanzo has raised a hand. Efri, are we able to get questions by voice?
I can allow that.
All right. Please allow Mabakwena to ask a question.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. I am Mabakwena Mokhanto from Lesotho. So I just want to thank you for making this platform for us to hear all of this exciting AI information. So I want to know, I'm not in the tech industry, but I wish to venture into a business and integrate artificial intelligence in it. So how can I best go about it if I currently do not have a tech team in my in my in my in my startup? How can I best integrate artificial intelligence in the solution that I'm trying to bring up to the people? Just a quick one. I want to venture into the waste management industry, and I've been thinking of pulling out an application that will be able to help people with respiratory issues. Imagine that with mental health. So how can I best integrate artificial intelligence in this?
So we get
Thank
this question
you.
a lot, Chido. This is pretty much 80% of the audience typically comes from a non-technical environment, might not even know a single developer like this, but they have a really great idea for solutions. So interested to hear how this question is answered.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Hi, Mabakwena. Thank you for your question. So I'm also a non-technical developer. I am now becoming technical, but I'd suggest that the first way you use AI is to use it for yourself. So use it to create your business model, use it to refine your ideas, and to create a clear path for yourself. This way, you can actually just start understanding the different capabilities that AI has. So again, ChatGPT is a great one to start with this. And then for your type of idea, I would suggest that you 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 don't start by building an app again, because perhaps that's not the best way that your clients want to engage with the solution that you're offering. But first kind of create a bit of like a smaller, we call it an MVP, a minimum viable product, that doesn't require you to put up so much upfront cost. Test it with about at least 5 people, get their feedback. And the key question you should be asking is, how do you want to engage with it? If they want a WhatsApp chatbot, you are going to build a WhatsApp chatbot. If they want an app, then proceed with an app. But first, use it for yourself to build out the business or to refine it, and then go out to your clients and get feedback on how they want to engage with it.
Great.
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks. Look, I'll ask everyone to try and type their questions in the chat as well. This will make it easier for us to go with the flow of the conversation. And in the meantime, Tafadzwa is asking, first of all, she says, thank you for taking the time to share with us today. And she wants to ask what challenges you faced regarding infrastructure in Africa and how you have overcome these. Given that, like infrastructure in Africa is still growing and we're not quite there yet, let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good question. So when you think of infrastructure with AI, you need to think of it in 2 ways. So your infrastructure on the supply side and on the demand side. On the supply side, it's infrastructure that you are using to build. So again, your compute, your data centers, and all of that. Yes, that is lacking, but fortunately, there are solutions globally that are accessible to us in Africa. So you can kind of find a global solution. One of the cheapest ones is called AI 21 Labs, where you can use it to pre-train your models. And that's kind of what we use to get started. And then your infrastructure on the demand side are the devices that your users and consumers are using. So is your AI, like, do people need to have like a smartphone to use it? If people need a smartphone, but the people in your market don't have smartphones, you already have a bit of a gap. So you also need to think about that. For us, we then made our solutions first available as a web platform, because most people can access a web app either through their laptop or through their phone. And then we've been iterating and figuring out, again, what's the best way that Africans would want to use our type of solution.
Great. And I think the infrastructure question is relevant because while in the big cities we tend to have access to a lot of this technology, the majority of Africans don't quite live in these big cities, so access to them might still be a challenge. But yeah, thank you for the answer. We have Leslie from Harare. I'm inspired by Chido's journey. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I'm not really in the AI business, and I'm not sure if my question is relevant to the conversation. I've read it already. It is relevant. What's the best strategy in positioning yourself to be able to raise funding for your startup, especially coming from Africa? And I want to add to that, in these dry investment times, ...
Yeah, it is very dry. We've been raising for a year and it has been very challenging. I think the best strategy is to decide what type of money you want to raise. Are you going for impact funding? Are you going for VC funding? Are you going for grants? Once you've decided that, just double down and hone in on the people that provide that type of money.
Hold on, Chido. This because you mentioned three things. A lot of people might not understand the difference between those three. Maybe clarify quickly.
Yeah, no problem. So when you're fundraising, there are different ways that you can get money, and there are different ways because there are different types of investors and funders. So the first one, which is the most common in the startup world, is venture capital financing. This is when institutional investors come through, they put money in your business, and their main goal is to supercharge extremely fast growth so that you can potentially exit through an IPO or through acquisition. So if you're raising VC funding, you're going to be moving very fast and probably raising multiple rounds of funding. Impact funding can be a mixture. There's some VCs that do impact and other organizations that do impact. They focus a lot more on the social impact that your business has. So the kind of metrics you're looking at achieving here is the Sustainable Development Goals, the AU Agenda 2063 goals, and you align your business to become a social impact business that drives impact and obviously makes money to remain sustainable. And then with your grants, these are people that are really looking to take you from one level to the next level. So they often give you equity-free funding, which is non-dilutive, so they don't take any equity or any stake in your business. The amounts of these are a bit lower than the first two, but at least it gets you going, and you can get multiple grants or you can get one grant and then graduate to the other levels of fundraising. So as I was saying, you need to position yourself for each one. An application for a grant is very different to an application to a venture capitalist. The types of questions they ask you, the types of documents and prerequisites they require of you are very different, but both are quite taxing. So I think right now in this environment where it's really difficult to get funding, it's difficult to get VC funding for a myriad of reasons, which you can go into another time, but it's not that the grant funding has dried up or the impact funding has dried up. So perhaps you may need to just position yourself and look at other sources of funding for you to get some money to build your business.
I like that. And I know a lot of startups that have been surviving on grant funding, by the way. It's really pushed. It's typically a mixture of a grant and impact kind of scenario.
Yes.
And I do recommend that people do look at other avenues because venture is not always the answer.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so we have Efri, we have Fana on the call. He has a question. I think he would like to ask it on voice. So could you please give him access? And while we get him access, congratulations, Chido. I'm happily rooting for you and the Vambo team. Also, happy birthday to Ishe. Okay, from Nairobi. Interesting.
Our CTO, yes. Thank you so much.
Great. Fana, I think you should be good to ask your question. Go ahead.
Hello guys, how are you? I am from Ethiopia, and my name is Akpo Balata, and Panama is my consulting company. What I want to ask the question is that AI is a very phenomenal issue in Africa and as I said Ethiopia, but there is challenges and opportunities which have with African agencies. So what I want to ask is that, first of all, I want to appreciate the effort of the Mastercard Foundation, Gabaya, Matras, and also other organizations who are working on technological advancement to aware the society. But there is also challenges. For example, in Ethiopia, more than 80% of population is living in rural area, and there is lack of infrastructure. Even if to be aware regarding such master's technological transformation. So, regarding this, what solution or what steps should be followed in Africa to reach such kind of community who are not accessible or other barriers to get this information and to use this technology for future business opportunity. So what I have question is only what kind of strategies should we follow to combat the barriers to reach such kind of population? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much. I didn't get the full question. Martin, I hope you can maybe assist.
Let me reiterate here. So it comes down to what we've discussed a little bit earlier. It's the larger population of Africa, again, is not in a position to easily access these new technologies, which means that we're probably at the risk of leaving a lot of Africa behind, considering the economic capabilities that AI brings to the table. First of all, do you believe that this is something that we should be addressing today? Like, and then the question is how? How can we get these people involved?
Okay, that is a very, very good question. The people that we want to involve in the AI conversation are likely to be the same people that were left out of the fintech conversation, the same people that were left out of the education conversation, the same people that have been left out of any type of advancement that we've invested in as a continent. So I think we kind of need to go back to why did they keep getting left out? Clearly, we are not making the right type of investment. I think in terms like East Africa has done a really, really great job in terms of advancing financial inclusion on the continent. But why hasn't that same effort translated into other parts of the continent? So I think first we need to ensure that connectivity is, I think the first investment in anything has to be connectivity. Not to say we're improving connectivity for AI, but we're just improving connectivity so that the right types of solutions can reach the people that really need them. After connectivity, I think then we need to improve our education, get people comfortable with using modern technologies, get people comfortable also just thinking about other ways that these things could serve them, and then creating channels of communication so that we can actually know what's going on. Like, I perhaps may be more fortunate to know what's going on in other parts of the continent because I'm able to go there. But what stops someone who is not able to go to another side of the continent from knowing what is working there and what's not? We don't have those open channels of communication. And I think if we open them up, it can make it easier to then include more people. So I don't have a straight answer, but I know that if we're more connected, it'll probably help us to find the right solutions for ourselves.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I think there's no one person that's going to solve this one. This requires a collective effort. We have 54 countries on the continent who arguably have similar challenges. Even the likes of Kenya and South Africa still might have those challenges. So there's still some way to go, but I think there's efforts being made. I think Liquid has done a really great job connecting from east to west, north to south. And we're getting many more infrastructure projects going on. I do, however, sympathize because I think that if we do not empower these young people who make up the majority of the world's young population, we stand at risk of actually having them, being left out. And once they are, poverty the margin for poverty will continue to grow, and we don't need that. We can't afford that as a continent anymore. All right, I have a question from Tabang. Now, I'd like to encourage everyone to put their questions in the chat, because depending on your connectivity scenario situation, it might not always go as well as we anticipate. So if you could just type it in the chat, it will make it a lot easier for me to deliver it quickly. But if you insist, Tabang, maybe we can give access every. All right, Tabang, you should be live. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tabang Chabalala. I'm from Pretoria, here in South Africa. So I feel inspired when I'm listening to everyone explaining what's happening, what's currently happening in the AI space. I'm also interested in the AI topics and discussions. So I heard what Chido was explaining about the APIs, different APIs, and the language APIs. So, and also she mentioned something about people who are left out in different industries, and I feel like I'm one of those people who have been left out in the education industry, because I've been doing some trainings in different schools, different provinces, and now I'm in a space where I'm engaging with educators on training them on LLMs, prompt engineering. So I'm training the educators on how to structure prompts, how to write different prompts for different topics and subjects, and hopefully training them on how to use that in the classrooms. But now the problem is, I would say the challenge is connectivity, as Chido has mentioned, and traveling to different schools. You know, when you're doing this on a voluntary basis, and a school in a different province calls you and say, you know, we are interested in this topic, so can you please come and help us? And so yeah, the connectivity issue is something else, but not in all schools. And what I'm trying to say here is that, as I've mentioned, I'm one of the people who were left out in the education space, because we've been crying out saying, guys, come please help us. We have something big that we want to share with the community. We want to engage with community members. We want to help them create jobs. We want to help them, you know, earn some income, take advantage of this AI advancement and harness that in their own lives. So now I'm hopeful that what I'm currently doing now in schools will give me access to parents, so that I can train them also on how to use large language models in their own
Sorry,
lives, how to
Tabang,
use
sorry to cut you off
ChatGPT.
here.
So
We
I
have
can
limited time, so
I
I just wanted to ask you to just make
Yeah.
the question concise. Ask the question so that it'll be easier for Chido to answer it.
Sure, sure, sure. So I was going to that point. So my question is, how do we then partner with companies like Vambo AI to assist us with trainings in communities on large language models and, you know, APIs, different APIs?
Yes, thanks, Tabang, for your question. So I think perhaps the challenge you may be facing is you're just not plugged into the right communities yet, and there are many that exist, which is fantastic. So I would suggest that you first approach the Ingenie EdTech Accelerator Network. There are over 50 edtechs or educational technology businesses in South Africa that are looking for people like you to help them and also capacitate them. These companies are funded, or they've got resources or the right relationships with government or other corporates. So you can kind of plug into that. We're part of that pipeline as well, so we can then engage on that platform.
Ingenie, right? You said, right?
Ingenie, yes,
Yeah.
based in Cape Town.
Tabang, please check out Ingenie. I think they can definitely support you. All right, I'd like to close the questions with a bit of a banger here from Louise Mutua. Now, I love this question because it says, how do regulatory environments across different African countries impact AI innovation? Currently, Kenya, against the ICT bill, due to the fact that the government may have excessive control over the ICT sector. Now, I just want to put some foundation here. Let us be very clear that the West, and I'm talking about America and Europe, were largely unregulated when this innovation sharply shot up, right? Now, I mean, we're starting to see these large companies being called to, what do they call those hearings that they have at Capitol Hill? Those ones. And so you're starting to see policy now. Now in Africa, we haven't had that time to innovate yet. Do you think we should hold off on the regulation, or do you think it's a good time to start now?
As an entrepreneur, I say build. Don't even think about regulation. That is not your baby. You're not even qualified to do that. Just build, innovate, get your product out there, get people using it. Safaricom is an example. They built before they were regulated. They gained so many customers before they did that. And then they were part of the conversation of regulating it. So no one was trying to control how they were doing business. They were in the room on how best that business could be done. So just build and get your clients out there. But I do think that in terms of regulation, if you're wanting to try predict where African regulation is going to be once it comes in, look at the Western markets. The EU passed the first AI Act, and that AI Act mostly focuses on regulating risk. So they are focused, like the high risk AI startups are the ones that they're really cracking down on. If you're just building a productivity platform that doesn't address children or doesn't have any biases or anything, no one is going to come and do anything to you. So start building, make sure that your AI is safe as you're building it, or if it's not safe, have some measures around how you're going to make it safe. But really, at the moment, I wouldn't focus too much on what the regulation is going to do to you, because if you don't have a product, then there's no point in worrying about anything. Just build and get the product out there.
Some wise words, some wise words. Thank you, Chido. So that was our last question, but I'd like to offer the last opportunity here for you to tell us, when you look through the tunnel and you see the light at the end, for Africa specifically, what does it look like? What does ideal 5 years, 10 years from now Africa look like?
I am so bullish on Africa. I believe everything good in this tech space is going to come from Africa, whether it's the talent or the solutions or the innovation or the new energy coming into the ecosystem is going to come from Africa. I suggest that anyone wanting to get into this space, get into it. It is not too late. Don't get intimidated if you see a Western player doing the exact same thing as you or releasing something quicker than you can do it. Build. You don't know who needs it. You don't know what they need it for. We're literally at the very, very beginning. We haven't even scratched the surface. So there's so much potential for everyone to gain from this opportunity of AI. But if you're looking to get started, feel free to follow me on my social media, Chido Startup. Let's connect, ask any other questions you may have, and yeah, please build.
Chido, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all the wonderful insights.
Thank you so much, Martin. This was fantastic.
Great. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We will continue to have the Gabea webinar series with more insightful guests just like Chido here. So please tune in, stay locked on our socials on LinkedIn and Instagram. That's where we'll be posting all of the latest webinars that are coming through. Thank you so much for joining, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.